My name is Lana, and I'm a fan of sensual stories and explicit movies. I've put together a collection of the best stories that I'm sharing with you. Now, we're going to listen to a very special one. Let's go! Mr. Thomas usually selected a couple of ninth grade students to be his aides for at least a semester at Thompson High School. The second semester had already begun, but he had yet to make that selection. In the past, he had always selected a couple of the cutest girls so that he could deliberately work close by and whenever possible look down their tops at their beginning breasts. He had noticed an attraction between Michael Johnson and Rachel Wright during science class time. But something happened during last hour on Friday that made his mind up regarding selecting these two as his future aides. Students in his science class sat at two-person tables, and coincidentally, Rachel and Michael sat next to each other. He had put up a YouTube video on the whiteboard regarding photosynthesis, and as he looked over at the two students, he noticed, even with the lights out, that Rachel was almost beet red with embarrassment. Michael had a big smile on his face as he was pretending to look at the video. Rachel, on the other hand, almost looked embarrassed and at the same time as if she were trying to manipulate something under the table. Mr. Thomas was of course curious and very suddenly, but not so much as to cause any suspicion, pretended to drop his pen and got down on his knees to pick it up. He quickly looked under the table that they were sitting at. Although the lighting was somewhat dim, he discovered that Rachel had her hand inside Michael's pants, and he was almost certain was either giving him a hand job or at least making him feel real good. Good old thrusty blackmail immediately entered his mind, and he had decided rather quickly that he would invite these two naughty adventurers to be his aides, but more importantly, to continually satisfy his erotic cravings throughout the semester. He looked at the clock, and the hour was just about over, and he knew he only had a few minutes to draft a short note, which he quickly accomplished. Nonchalantly, he moved over by their desk and dropped it off. As he approached, Rachel withdrew her hand from under the desk, haphazardly, in time to see his note. She placed it in between herself and Michael, and it read, "Been looking for two student aides this quarter. Over the weekend, make sure to ask your parents if it is okay. You would need to be able to stay after school some school's days and maybe assist with our inventory on the weekend. Having observed what has been going on this hour under your desk, I believe it would be in your best interests to agree to this proposal. Stay after and we will discuss it in more detail for a few minutes." When Mr. Thomas returned to his desk and looked back, both Rachel and Michael had a look of terror on their faces. That look instantly caused Mr. Thomas's day begin an immediate northern extension, almost straight away, causing his pants to poke outwards. Luckily, this was taking place under his teacher desk, so no students would be noticed. Soon, the bell rang, and after a few minutes, only the three of them remained after class. The teacher went over to the door and closed and locked it, and then sat on the desk in front of his two apprehensive students. Do either of you have anything to say? He asked, watching their teen faces. Uh, it wasn't anything bad, Mr. Thomas. We like each other a lot, and it just sorta happened on the spot. Rachel, what do you have to say? It's like just what he said, she muttered quickly. Isn't your uncle on the school board? He asked, looking at the girl. Rachel again looked rather upset and afraid. She nodded her head yes. I see. So, Rachel, tell me exactly what you were trying to do under the table. Then there was a long silence. Both ninth graders looked at each other, and once again scarlet faces quickly appeared. I'm not hearing anything. And I need to hear you say something, Rachel. And how about this? And he took his iPhone out of its holster as he was saying it. If I do not hear what you were doing in 10 seconds, I will call both of your parents and your uncle. Right now. No, shouted Michael. You can't, begged Rachel. Then start explaining. I can look up your parents' cell phone numbers in seconds, and you both know that. Still silence. And then Michael started. She was just unzipping. Silence! This is Rachel's explanation, and not yours. His tone was harsh, and the teens knew they had met their match. Now, start describing what you were doing, or I will call. Rachel began to mumble, and then the following was finally understood. I was kinda curious about Michael's thingy getting hard, she began. Call it a D, Rachel. When a boy or man's D is hard, you must call it a... Sorry, I should have said I was curious about Michael's D and how it always gets so hard whenever I am around. He has wanted me to, touch it, but I was always too, scared to do it, especially in school. But if you were on your own, you would probably pull it out for him, huh? Go on, said Mr. Thomas impatiently. Well, when he put on the video, he kinda pulled my hand down under the table, and I knew what he wanted. And it was kinda dark, so I unzipped his jeans and rubbed it. But there was more than just that, wasn't there? The teacher questioned. Well, I got the zipper down and I touched the big lump still covered with his boxers. And I have to admit, I wanted to touch it, for real, she admitted. Now we're getting somewhere. You wanted to touch his? You wanted to feel what it's like to have a boy's in your hand, didn't you? Do you know what it means to play on a boy's D? Bring him off, she said. Meanwhile, no one could see under the table where they were sitting at, but listening to Rachel describe what she had done was causing Michael to spurt another huge bone. Mr. Thomas watched the boy adjust his D and knew he was aroused, and also what needed to happen for his own enjoyment. So, did you bring him off, Rachel? I don't think so. Your note kinda stopped things. Have you ever touched a boy's, or for that matter, a man's D like mine before? He asked, lewdly pointing at his crotch. No way! I like Michael, and I was just kinda curious. I see. Well, I don't want you both to miss your business, so we must hurry. As a favor to Michael, you are going to finish what you started right here and right now in front of me. What? She said. That's right. You have made Michael all uncomfortable with your colorful dance, and the boy has a hard-on right now. Am I right?" he said, looking at the boy. "Yeah, but—" "No buts. Scoot your chair back, son. Stand up and whip it out for your girlfriend to service. Now, Rachel, let's get busy." Again, the tone in Mr. Thomas's voice motivated the boy to quickly follow his instructions. Rachel turned a new shade of red as she watched the boy stand up next to her, quickly unsnap the button at the top of his jeans, pull down the brass zipper, and slipping his thumbs into the elastic top of his boxers, immediately yanked down both his undershorts and pants to the floor. Instantly, his 5-foot D began to bob in front of Rachel's face. "It won't take very long," said Mr. Thomas as he stood behind the young girl and placed his hand over hers and brought it up to encircle Michael's shaft. "Squeeze his a little bit right here, and then run your hand up and down. Yeah, just like that. Make sure you keep it angled towards your face though," he said. "Now it's your turn to take over." He let go and unexpectedly moved his hand from her shoulder down to her breasts and began to gently squeeze them under her top. With a little effort, he slipped his fingers under her bra and began to fondle her bare titties as he watched her begin to touch the boy off. She didn't seem to mind, and being that close, he could hear her moan as he began to grope and squeeze her titties. As predicted, it didn't last very long, and within less than a minute, all three watched the 9th grader boy shoot. As the teacher had planned, the direction of the spray was right onto Rachel's face and mouth. "Keep going, Rachel. Oh, that feels so effing great." After almost a full minute, he slowed on the girl. He moved her head away and pulled back his. Mr. Thomas took out his iPhone and took several pictures. The one he particularly liked later that evening showed her slopping up the thick juices into her mouth. He quickly found a towel in his drawer that he sometimes ejaculated into, and helped clean up the girl. "I will see you both after school tomorrow, as we continue our fun. I will be keeping these pictures as evidence to show both your parents, if you elect to not follow my directions the next several weeks. Make sure neither of you wears any underwear to school tomorrow, and bring in notes from your parents giving permission for you both to be my permanent aides. Now, get out of there." Next day after school. Since both Rachel and Michael were in his last hour class, Mr. Thomas didn't have to wait long to begin the next lastful chapter of his plan. "So, do you have your notes?" he asked, having them stay in their normal seats after the bell rang. While waiting for them to respond, he followed the previous day's practice and closed and locked the door and pulled down the shade. When he returned, they had their notes out. He looked them over and a smile came over his face. "Excellent. I need to speak with you separately. So, Rachel, here is a clipboard, and I want you to go back into the storeroom and begin counting all of the items on this checklist, starting with the beakers and flasks. One more thing I forgot to ask. What was it like not wearing your panties and bra today?" "It was weird, and it made me feel kinda kinky and naughty," she admitted. "Kinky is okay, but I love naughty the most. Right now, before you start, I need you to pull off your pants and just leave them here with me. I want you to be bare-assed while you work on my inventory. But, once again, no buts. Tell you what, just leave them on my desk in the back of the room, and then go into the storeroom. Both guys continued to watch her as she unsnapped her jeans and pushed them down her bare legs. She didn't let them see her kitty, but her cute little butt was wonderful to watch as she walked to the back of the room, and then, covering up her kitty, walked forward until she got into the storeroom and closed the door. Michael, you understand that you must continue to cooperate with me, right? Yes, sir. Both Rachel and I know we made a mistake yesterday and we have to prove ourselves to you. Do you know how long we will be working for you? For the rest of the semester. But I will be honest with you. I do believe you enjoy being serviced almost daily by Rachel during the time, much like you did yesterday, which is one of the reasons for also making you my aide. All I ask is that when I ask you to do something, that you do it. Understand? Sure do. And between you and me, what happened yesterday was totally awesome. Shooting my all over her face was the very best. Sometime I would like to see those pictures from your phone. Be my guest, he said, uncaping his iPhone and showing the boy how to view the hot pictures and brief video of his shooting all over her face. Mr. Thomas watched the boy slowly move from one pic to the next. Makes you get a hard-on, doesn't it? Asked the teacher. Sure does. I love seeing her face all covered with my, and that short video is better than watching night TV. I agree, but tell you what, let's keep things even, and I want you to put your jeans on my desk right next to Rachel's. Today, both of you will remain that way for the rest of our time together, so that my next set of plans will work with little complications. So, get out of those pants and get Rachel over here. Michael was surprisingly embarrassed about showing his to the teacher, but he followed his instructions and placed his jeans on the desk, turning slightly away as he approached the storeroom. Knock on the door and have Rachel join us. Michael goes to the storage room door and knocks. She answers by just poking her head out. She looks down and immediately sees Michael sporting a D for her to see, and she smiles. Mr. Thomas wants to talk to both of us. Come on over. It is important. Grab her hand, Michael, and lead her over here, he said. They mumbled something to each other that was unintelligible, but soon they were walking over to the teacher, who was perched up on one of the tables. He indicated he wanted them to sit on the table across from him. Rachel was again completely embarrassed because sitting this way would make her pussy totally visible to the horny teacher. I want you both to place your hands behind you and then lean back and relax. Then open up your legs slightly. He knew that would provide him with the best view of both of their teenage genitalias. Next is going to be an overly explicit segment that I'm skipping due to YouTube restrictions. In the video description and in the comment section, you can find links to the full version of my stories in my Telegram channel, Lana Tales.